The secret to open all the best female orgasms, all the woman's richest, most powerful, mind-blowing orgasmicity. The key is you have to completely change the way you think about female orgasms, what female orgasms really are, both men and women. You have been given a false idea, only partially correct, not the whole picture. So hopefully by the end of this video, everything will transform for you. Most people think that a female orgasm is the typical tension release that feels similar to a male orgasms when men ejaculate. You stimulate the clitoris, maybe the G-spot as well in some women, and then the woman comes. Actually, this is just one type of an orgasm. Women have two whole categories of orgasms, and there are several orgasms in each category. So the two categories are peak orgasms and ongoing orgasmic experiences. So let's start with the peak orgasms. So this is the basic kind of orgasm, that particular genital nerve that you stimulate to enough tension to release that reflex. A woman feels an intense moment of pleasure and then a relaxation and release. So which orgasms are in this group? So the typical clitoral orgasms, whether it's with a hand or oral or a vibrator. Some women will have a G-spot that can release as well. So we can also, for better understanding, call these types of orgasms a climax. And then there is a completely different group of orgasms that women can have. So here you have to understand that a woman's body is not just one genital nerve that you are mechanically stimulating. A woman's body is a really sensitive erogenous space. There are many sensitive areas just in the genitals, but also the whole body is a massive network that is just wired to transmit that pleasure, that sexual energy from the genitals. So we can activate the genital areas and the whole body of the woman to create a flow of intense pleasure that is transmitted, vibrating through her, and it feels orgasmic. So it can become a flow through her body on and on in a stream or in waves. So we can call this orgasmic waves or orgasmic flows or orgasmic experiences. These orgasmic flows can be anything. They can be as intense as the climax, more intense than a climax, but they can also feel lower in intensity as such, even though they still feel really amazing and fulfilling and enriching. So there are different orgasms of this nature that you can create. For example, you can create this kind of orgasmic flow from the clitoris by not doing the typical rub to a climax, but by doing a different thing with the clitoris. The same with the G-spot. You can create really powerful orgasmic flows there that will keep going on and on into the woman's body. One of the powerful orgasmic places in a woman's body is the cervix, the deep part of the vagina. So when you open that up, that's called a cervical orgasm. You can also have a variety of blended experiences. For example, combining orgasmic flow from a clitoral area with a vaginal area. And then this will keep transmitting into the woman's body. On the inside of the vagina, you can have like the whole vaginal experience where the different sensitive areas after some time kind of blend into one field and they combine into one flow, like just a whole vibrant vagina that keeps transmitting that orgasmic energy into her. And then even the woman's whole body can become really activated, and then she would enter something that we can call an orgasmic state, which is basically when the woman's whole body is this one massive, sparkly cloud of bliss, and everything just flows and vibrates through her, and she is in this trancy state. So what you really need to understand here for the female orgasmicity, that there is something far greater beyond the climax. These ongoing orgasmic experiences are the woman's greatest orgasmicity, a greater orgasmicity than a climax. So let's just break down the features. First, the peak orgasm is quick. The orgasmic experience is ongoing. It can go on and on in bliss. Secondly, limited in satisfaction versus more fulfilling. So a peak orgasm is a very satisfying, intense sensation of release, but it's quick and sometimes energy drops after it. Orgasmic experiences can be not as sharp, or sometimes they can be even more intense, but they saturate a woman a lot more. Just the volume of this, it goes a lot deeper. And women often feel a lot more fulfilled by this kind of sex than just with the climax. Number 3, more work versus less work. The climax happens only at the end, after a lot of stimulation usually. So a lot of work, not just work for her partner, but work for the woman herself, to be really focused on this, to try to get herself to come, which means there is more pressure pressure on her, often even counterproductive, as a lot of women know. It's just generally harder to achieve. The orgasmic experiences are basically just about activating the areas in the body, and then they can even start early. So the technique is not so physically demanding. Often you have to do a lot less work to feel them. If you are in the right mindset, if you're connecting with it properly, quite often you can be surprised how little you actually have to do for them. And the fourth, inconsistent versus consistent. The climax is quite unique for each woman. Some women completely struggle to get there because of the hardware. Women can also often feel it's on and off, depending on the day. It's typically a very specific pathway. It might only happen with a very specific particular kind of stimulation, like maybe it's only possible in the oral or only possible with fingers. And the ongoing orgasmic flows are actually far more consistent, far more common for women, and far more uniform across women than the climax. So often women can access them more consistently, not as much on and off as with the climax. It is a mistake that we have called the climax the orgasm and everything else is not the orgasm, if these experiences are greater for her often than the climax. And this sends everybody in the wrong direction. But many women haven't explored them, and the focus in the media is only on the climax. So they're not considered, worthy experiences. And many women are in this mindset of chasing the climax, not aware that they can have a greater orgasmicity in their body if they just start thinking differently about the female orgasmicity. That is the problem, that in our culture we have decided that the woman needs to get the climax, and we keep working on it like it's the best thing. This ongoing orgasmic flow is not only a more fulfilling experience, it's also easier to achieve often than the climax. Now, my approach is not to say, don't do this, do this. When I teach about female orgasms properly in my consultancy or in my online courses, I always teach all of this. The best approaches to all the peak orgasms and also to all these ongoing orgasmic flows. But then I leave it up to the student. You've got to decide what you want to do. Are you going to keep hyper-focusing on the climax and keep doing the same thing that ultimately hasn't been deeply fulfilling or special? You can do that. That's your choice. Or are you going to focus on the more expansive whole body orgasmicity that is going to be more satisfying for the woman once explored? And this is also the choice that I would like you to think about at the end of this video.